Back again with another exciting video, here to bring revelation instead of devilation, motivation and inspiration. Well, there's been a request for a long time for me to make a video about sacrifice. Sacrifice is a very important part of Haitian voodoo. You cannot have voodoo without sacrifice. This is not New Age philosophy. This is not Hindu yoga. This tradition here, you have to give to receive. You have to physically give in order to receive. When you give in voodoo, it is like a Christian going to church and giving his praise. His praise is going up and his blessing is coming down. See, there's a mysterious power in the act of offering. It's not the physical act that you see. It is what's in the act that has power. Many talk about blood sacrifices as though that is the only thing that is in the world of offering. It is very romanticized in America because a lot of people, a lot of white people figure, well, I am dark, I am sinister, I'm powerful because I'm making an offering. I think an individual, I'm not even going to mention his name, he made a video and I guess he was talking about blood sacrifices and stuff like that. Typical white person. I'm going to say it. This is the shit that I'm talking about. When it comes to white people want to they want to exaggerate things because, they don't have access to these things. It is a fad. It is a fad to them. So this is why a lot of people, they get into this whole thing of blood sacrifice, and they miss the point. When it comes to that facet of voodoo, it all depends on where you go. Because in my yard, we don't use the blood to feed spirits. We don't. We don't at all. We may use the blood to basically make a soup or some type of food whatsoever. We use it for that. But in my yard, we do not feed spirits blood in my yard. Now, when I'm in America, that's a different subject. You know what I'm saying? That's a different, or outside of my yard, that's a different matter altogether. But in my yard in Haiti, La Coularezie, we do not use blood sacrifices. My family views the land as very, very sacred. So they don't utilize blood or feed any blood to the spirits. Now when we start talking about the body parts of a spirit, the body parts of an animal, that is what we utilize. So when we're talking about certain offerings, we may use a skull of a particular animal. We use the food, the body parts in the food that we make, because it's not just you just utilize wasting body parts. You utilize the meat of the animal, and you cook it just like you would cook food for a relative. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about loi in voodoo and stuff like that, they're like relatives. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, these are strangers. They're like relatives. So we're making food for them to eat alongside of us. Now, when we start talking about the body parts of, specific, animals or so, we basically look at that as a souvenir for the spirit. Offering, sacrifice, offering, some people try to make it seem as they're different. For me, it's all the same. You know, terminologies, forget about the terminology. Because wherever you're giving a watermelon, wherever you're giving bananas, you know, wherever you're giving pineapples, it really doesn't matter. You know, it is still giving to the Spirit. And what do you get? It all is for the same outcome. Everything you give to a spirit, there's going to be a blessing in return. When one is dealing in this facet of voodoo, one has to know what they're doing. They have to have experience. Because, you know, not every spirit takes the same offering. I mean, if you go in the Old Testament part of the Bible, you realize, you know, Yahweh, you know, he struck many men down for making the offerings wrong. And this is the same way with voodoo. If you don't know what you're doing, you start talking about making whatever offerings you want to a spirit, that spirit will strike you down. And it all depends on how strong the spirit is. That will determine the consequences of your infraction. You know, this is something that's very delicate. You know, this subject in voodoo, it can make you or break you. I've heard of I've heard of an individual once that tried to basically make an offering to Marinette. The offering was wrong. That person basically eventually looked like they had AIDS. And I guess they were actually, and I believe they were actually later on down the line diagnosed with AIDS. You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, offerings, you know, they're here to basically, they're here as a form to build a relation with the spirit. You know, when you give to that spirit watches over you and protects you. You know? And it can also be your own, it can also bring your own demise if you don't know what you're doing. So with that said, I conclude this video. I hope this video is very informative. Thank you guys for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.